Just wondering if you could talk a little bit. This is, I guess, less a Google question, more a journalism question, but about how you went about writing the book and how you were able to get so much access to Google when a lot of things in the book are positive, but some of them don't reflect that positively on Google, and how you're able to work with these guys to get so much access to the Googleplex.
Um, I was able to do this with a great deal of difficulty on the front end. First of all, um, I got to know the people at Google over 3 or 4 years before I approached them about the idea of a book, um, because I was a beat reporter for the Washington Post covering the company day in, day out, and they came to know me as someone who would write stories about them that were fair and accurate based on what I knew. And I also live by the doctrine of no surprises. I don't think there's anything that ever appears in print that anybody needs to be surprised about. And my test for fairness and accuracy is, would I feel something were fair if it were written about me? And so I approached Google, and their number one concern was not me. Their number one concern was time. They're in the early phases of building a rapidly growing business, and they were concerned that this was going to shift the focus of Sergey Brin, Larry Page, Chief Executive Officer Eric Schmidt, and others. And I assured them that I'd be very respectful of their time and I'd be a very resourceful reporter. And then they were concerned about the loss of control, because Google likes to control its own image. And I explained to them that I would make the final decisions, not them, about what would be in this book, but I would live by the doctrine of no surprises and get all of their input in the following way. And that is, I offered to read them the entire manuscript prior to publication and to take in any and all comments that they have. After all, I want to write a book, I want to get it right. And sometimes they're going to give me the right information, sometimes maybe they're going to give me a little spin, but I want to get it right. So I read them every single chapter from my draft manuscript before the book was published, and the result of that process was a better, more accurate book that had a lot of other information in it that it otherwise wouldn't have had. It gave them a comfort level that they weren't going to be surprised by anything, and that I was truly committed to doing something that was accurate. And the book, the Google story right now, is being published not only in the United States, it's being published in 25 languages around the world. And so it was important to them that I get it right. And at the end, they said to me, after reading it, you know, this isn't the apocryphal story necessarily that we tell, but you got the narrative right, you got the story right. And recently I was at the Googleplex, and I spoke to Google employees and senior management, and we had a very frank and open discussion about all aspects of the book. After all, nobody's perfect. And that didn't mean they were going to like everything in the book. And this is another very important thing. If you look at the back flap of the book, it says, "This book was not created, authorized, or endorsed by Google Inc." That means that it's an independent book where I used my own judgment and tried to bring to it an independence of thinking, to treat Google fairly and accurately, but it's not a marketing piece for the company. And that's a very, very, very important distinction. And they kept saying to me, "Can't you give me a manuscript? Give us something to read. Can't we?" No, I refused to do that. I held my ground under a lot of pressure not to do that, and I'm glad I did, and the end result is a better book.